Hello, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. Thank you for clicking onto this video. We're going to continue on with our reading of Alice Bailey's Esoteric Psychology. This is part 1, and we're learning about the 7 rays, certain questions and their answers. I just wanted to pause really quickly and say thank you to those who reached out over the course of this entire study, because it means a lot. It has meant so much to just know that you're out there journeying and learning with me and with each other, and taking the time to just meditate, contemplate on higher things is always just such a rare thing. So it's really nice and encouraging to know that others are taking those steps towards shifting the energy of what's going on right now, of what people are focusing on just being very separated and very disconnected, to actually, learning about yourself seems like a selfish activity, but it's actually a very holistic and unifying thing, because once you are better for yourself, you can be better for other people. And that's the goal of the soul, which we're going to talk about here in a second. The soul, when we're living as souls and not just personality beings or just physical beings as the lowest octave of it, then you're actually able to contribute in a meaningful way. And we have so many people that are boxed off and closed-minded to their connection to others, that it's become really harmful for us to continue going on through life and all these cycles. We just came out of, we're in the craziest energy right now, right? We just came out of a full moon that went into a Mercury retrograde that's going into a total solar eclipse on Monday. That hasn't happened since I think 2017, and it's all happening back to back right now. So you got the energy of purging and cleansing through a full moon with the planet Mercury going backwards, which is the communication planet, and it's telling we need to go backwards and go into the past and dig up things that are not spoken or not said, and we need to bring stuff to light, and then we're going to put it into the light of this eclipse and see if it's going to be eclipsed out or something else eclipsed in. It's a real reckoning moment. So all of this energy is pulsating right now, and a lot of people are being swept up into it. And the way for me to handle that is to be swept up into something that can anchor you, that can ground you, that can nurture you, that can help you stay focused and centered in yourself and your true north, which is going to be, in this study, to live as a soul, to contribute positively in the face of things that might not be so positive. So, or to look at whatever you've done and say, hey, that was a shitty thing to do, but I don't have to be that tomorrow. I don't have to choose that tomorrow. Or if someone has done something to me, I don't have to choose to allow it to continue. This is a choice point. Everything in life is about choices. And so as we learn about ourselves, we learn about the choices that we make unconsciously, and the choices that we can begin to make from a place of understanding and an awakened sense of self, of what I choose to have in my life, what I want to multiply, what I want more of, what I want less of. As we make those choices more consciously, then we're going to move more in the direction of the soul, which is an enlightened self, which isn't just reactive, and that says, oh, I'm going to just succumb to this way of being because that's who I've been all my life, or this is who I'm around, so this is who I'm going to stay around forevermore, or I don't think I deserve more, or I deserve this lesser treatment, whatever it is that we're, subscribing to. Just like when we click the button on YouTube, what are you subscribing to? We're so selective with what we subscribe to here, right? We're going to watch, I don't know if I like that or not, and I'm going to hold back my subscription, but we subscribe to things every single day through these choices that we're making. And I think if we made those a little bit more selective, like we do, online and around these internet spaces, who we follow, right? All that stuff, we just follow inanely, but you really are telling this energy, because it's all energy, what we want to follow, what we want more of, what we're subscribing to, and what we're refusing to subscribe to because we're holding back. We're like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about consciousness. I don't know about spirituality. So the universe gives you more of unconsciousness and more of a lack of that which is spiritual, which is going to just be very physical, very dense, very hard, very trying, very taxing, very emotional, right? If that's what we want more of, then we keep signing up and subscribing to it. And with each full moon, with each new moon, with each retrograde, with each eclipse, you're making those choice points and they're sending you into the next cycle and the next wave of whatever we signed up for. So I'm going to go into our screen share after this long introduction. So I just wanted to say that as a starting point to be like, hey, I feel it with you. And for those who, again, have reached out from our separate spaces just to say, hey, I'm on this journey with you. Thank you so much. It means a lot because we are on this. It's like this reading is going to say, it's a very individual journey, but when we're healthy, when we're healed, we can come together and we can actually do some powerful, meaningful work. And I think that's the point. So checking in every now and then to say, hey, are you still there? Yeah, I'm still here. I'm still going with you. It means a lot. So I hope that I can continue to do that for you as well, as you have definitely done that for me. So last part, we left off here on page 112, maybe 113. Yeah, right in here in between this last paragraph, where we learned about how what is being taught matters much more than the teacher, right? The individual vessel of a message versus what the content of their statements and their character is, right? Les Brown, you measure a man by the content of his character, or a woman, and how to learn to grasp the teachings correctly and take exactly what we need from the infinite storehouse that is around us. We take exactly what we need, nothing more, nothing less, and then we move through life more in a flow. And that was the last section right here. So we're picking up at just before page 113. If you're following along in the physical book, this is the publisher's website. And I'm going to try and cascade through some of these things because, again, these are lessons that Alice Bailey channeled through the Tibetan, and these teachings are reiterated a lot of these more than once. So I'm going to try and kind of move through some of those things that we've discussed at length and spend a little bit more time on the concepts that I feel like are really maybe newer or more helpful to cement in this now moment. So right here, we're going to look at this paragraph first. This one is one that I would kind of move over a little more quickly. It's saying that the days of the personality contact or of personality attention and personal messages are over and have been over for quite a while. Saying this is a hard message, but no true disciple will misunderstand it. The idea here is that, this summarizing sentence at the end, the satisfying of individual aspiration, the meeting of the desire of the probationers, and the feeding of spiritual ambition appeal to us not at all. Times are too serious and the crisis too acute. So again, this is like a choice point, like the world splitting off into these different banks, and where things used to be in balance, because balance is always the goal. I am not a perfect being, but I am not an imperfect being. So when we resolve to just, oh, nobody's perfect, or, oh, we're only human, and then we just kind of succumb to that more and more, then the soul, the higher aspects, just kind of shrinks down and shrivels away. It dies off. And then what you see is this spread of this chaos energy, this lost energy, this disconnected energy, and what people are just falling off into these banks, and it's becoming really serious. It's becoming a crisis, is what the Tibetan was saying at that time. So it's not like it was in the past where things were more balanced, and you just occasionally have these individuals who are studying consciousness and they make contact with some sort of spiritual source or guru or something like that. And then they get to channel information and they bring forward this new little nugget of wisdom or teachings. And then the people all, clamor around to hear this speaker, and they learn this little nugget of truth, and then they move forward into a higher stage of enlightenment. And it's just this little process that they're saying that used to be the way that things were going on. And then we'd see these people pop up in different pockets. And like Helen Blavatsky, that was all when she, traveled. She actually infiltrated the Brotherhood in the Eastern Brotherhoods, where she impersonated a guy, because you could only be a man in those groups at those times, and so that she can be around those masters and learn those teachings. And she was basically part of one of the Mahatmas, and those were those who were so adept that they were able to manifest letters, or picture a blank piece of paper, and then you're just supposed to, letters appear on it, and it's teachings and from some channeled source or whatever. And it was all these little fantastical psychical experiences and things that they were able to do based on their level of connectedness and their personality contact with certain entities and masters and hierarchies and all that stuff. This paragraph is saying that this is not the case anymore. Basically, they're saying that this is not what we're looking for. The times are too serious and the crisis is too acute. So it goes from there. Okay, so what time is it? If that's not what we're doing is going to be, it says it a little bit more down here, but I will read this paragraph. It says that it is of course a fact that there are today groups of aspirants receiving definite instruction and disciples being subjected to definite training. But it must be remembered, in spite of all statements by devotees of the world to the contrary, that no training is given in these cases as to the handling of the details of the personality life. The specific problems of health, finance, and family concerns are not dealt with or considered, nor is comfort given or time taken to reassure or satisfy the unstable personality. So again, this is saying that the teachings right now, it's like the times are too serious, the crisis is too acute. This isn't about, I'm going to be connecting with some guru to learn everything that I need to learn, and they're going to heal me from the bottom up and rebuild me like I'm a house and I'm just starting with the raw materials, and I expect someone to come in, swoop in, and to just go brick by brick and build me up into the person that I'm meant to be. The times are too serious for that. They're not going to be training you on how to handle your personality. No one's going to teach you how to handle your health, your finances, how to build a strong family. We're not going to focus on people who are unstable as a personality. And this isn't in terms of being negative. This is in terms of saying, hey, the crisis is too acute. We've let this thing slip too far out of balance. So right now, what the masters are focusing on is heavy work, up here level. So if these people are continuing to lose focus on what they're supposed to be building, based on they're building their bricks up one by one already, because the masters have built themselves up that way, which we kind of get to down here. Because the only way to get to that level of adepthood is to do the self-work, to actually decide that I'm going to choose to learn about self with a capital S, so that I can learn my power to overcome, so I can learn how to navigate these energies, these eclipses, these astrological things, like as above, so below. I'm going to recognize that there's a physical life and there's a spiritual life, and I want to know how to move through both worlds. I want to know how to master both sides of myself. My anger, my happiness, my pleasure, my pain. I want to be strong within every aspect of this human experience. So I'm going to do the work to explore what that means, explore what I don't know, and explore what others might know, unlearn what I thought I knew. I'm going to be brave enough to step into this place of being a student again, to being a child again, to being a full-grown adult at whatever age you are, and understanding that, hey, I could have gotten something wrong. I have things that I feel like I've done that I could have done differently, that I could have done better, and not being afraid to improve no matter what stage you're at. That's the first step of consciousness and of awakening to a state of unknowing. To be birthed again, like that, born again into Christianity, that's what you're doing, is you're being wiped clean and saying I want to start over. But it's not like giving your life over to someone else again to build you up brick by brick. This is you doing the work, because no one knows more than you those things that you have done in your innermost self that you haven't told anyone, right? That the Mercury retrograde goes backwards, that karmic cycles come up and say, hey, we're going to bring this to the surface. You thought that no one would know because we're moving towards, again, the veil lifting. where people can read minds and all that stuff. The reason that is so that there could be a purification where people can understand what has always been true, which is that there is always one who sees the actions that are taken, the choices that are being made. But this physical, dense reality has had us convinced that we can do things in our little separate corners and not be found out, right? But the greater cosmic cycles are going on to expose people. We got poor brother love going through this whole ritualistic cycle right now, public display, where they want to throw the whole book at you all at once for, oh, what has he been doing for this whole time? It's like everybody has been thinking that what we've been told about this reality is true, is that it's every man for themselves, is that competition and greed are okay, is that love can sometimes be seen as a weakness, is that we can do what we need to do to survive, and that can stay hidden for as long as it can be, that we can keep secrets, and, people will be none the wiser. That's not the case. And so what we have to do is get more and more comfortable to a place of sitting in truth, even if it is an ugly truth. And the best seat to be is the one where you're able to recognize and admit that and work with that on your own terms, rather than waiting for someone else to shine the light on you. Because the planetary bodies are going to shine the light on it in the cycle when the time comes. Oh, a whole industry will crumble down when certain things are exposed about it, whether that be governments, whether it be education systems, medical systems, entertainment systems, all of this stuff. But we can do it proactively by each working on ourselves and then growing into the kind of group that connects on terms that are honest, that are solid ground, that say, hey, yes, I recognize that I've done this, and in the future I'd like to live in such a way that I could have everyone read the record of my life and I have no shame. Whether it's perfect or not, I have owned my actions, my inactions, my decisions, and I've chose to build myself up from where I found my foundation unstable. I said, no, I'm going to build my rock on solid ground, right? Another religious song about building that rock on solid ground. They talk about the pyramid, the cornerstone that you have, that foundation that makes everything else stable. You have to build your own home and rebuild based on understanding that no one's going to, in this spiritual work, reassure the aspirants. That's not the way that this happens at this point, because long story long, the times are too serious and the crisis too acute. So again, those who have been doing the work are starting to move from a place of, I'm cutting off right here. Even Savon Bomar, just I think in his recent video that I just watched, it's like, okay, we're at the adept level. We're gonna accept that we're at this understanding where I'm gonna be speaking to people that are here. Not to say that I don't love and care, but he's got a whole bunch of information about what he calls the neophytes, the beginners, right? You can still go back, you can still study and do the work, but you're not going to walk into this build, as he calls it, where he's giving a lesson and say, hey, how do I get to this the fastest and the quickest way? And how do I get to where you are at? What's the shortcut for me to get there? No one's playing with that anymore, because that has been something that people have done in the vein of mentorship. And all that does is take this person here and bring this person here. And this has also become a tactic, right? To slow down advancement. Not by this person, but by our choice to not move forward as we are meant to. Like, you can still help and you can still guide, but you can also leave the fruit or the breadcrumbs for everybody else, and they can choose to do it as well, because you can spend all your time in the world helping these people that are asking for a handout and a shortcut, but if they don't really truly feel that the impact of their ledger, they don't really feel like it's going to be public, if they still think they can get away with things and whatever, they're going to undercut that time spent devoted to bringing that person up to speed. And it's not out of a judgment, it's not out of a criticism or anything, it's just the way that it goes, because it has to be the acceptance of the own journey towards self-mastery, self-actualization. It's a choice, it's a very personal thing. It's what has you click on this video, it's what has you stay to the end, if that's what you are choosing. But if it's not, that's fine. It can happen at a gradual time. You can even do it in bits and pieces. I'm going to watch this much now. I'm going to come back and I'm going to study this much later. I'm going to get the book and I'm going to read it over myself, see if I interpret it the same way, see where I agree, where I disagree. But I'm going to do the work in my own corner. I'm going to check my ledger to see if the results are to my satisfaction. And I'm going to continue along if it adds value to me. But again, it's not a matter of thinking that you're going to take someone backwards in order to bring you forwards, because that's still moving from a place of selfishness. We have to understand that part of the journey is very individual, very much for the self. So again, he's saying here, the Tibetan is saying that we are not going to handle specific problems of health, finance, family concerns, or unstable personalities. Training aspirants as to the technique of spiritual growth is undertaken. We will talk to you about how to grow spiritually. Correction of hidden factors producing emotional conditions may be suggested. We will tell you kind of where you might need to work, where you need to start, where you need to look. But again, we know that. We know that ourselves. There's not a single one of us that doesn't know what we need to do right now to improve in whatever area of our life that is. So to sit and ask another person to guide us from the ground up, to build us from the ground up, is too much of a burden to put on the other person, because you can get there faster than anybody. But you have to decide that you want to. You have to be honest about what needs to change, and you need to start there. But hidden factors will be suggested. Meditations may be arranged in order to bring about certain results, and instruction in the laws governing soul union may be offered. But no personality work is attempted. Again, the personality work is all the stuff that's on the lower level of the constitution of man. If I look at this chart, constitution of man, right? Let's see if I can. The planes of the solar system. This is the physical, the basic, dense physical plane. The personality is made up of this, right? Our physical, our emotional, and our mental body. We need to move upwards to the point where we master our physical reality, our physical life, our emotional life, and our mental life. And that mental life can move us to the lowest point of the spiritual triad, which is the next level right here, where we're combining our mind, our intuition, and our spirit. That's the spiritual triad over here. So there's levels to this. We're moving upwards towards a goal. And that goal at the top is the monad, the Trinity, where our will and our wisdom is aligned with intelligent activity. The Father, the Mother, the Son. This is how you reach divinity. The constitution of every man. But, sorry, going back here. No personality work is attempted. Disciples handle their own personalities. That's your responsibility. Handle your own personality. That's, again, your own physical situation, Maslow's pyramids. You need to work on your security. You need to work on getting into a safe neighborhood, about making sure that there's food on your table, making sure that you feel protected and grounded, that your roots are solid. You need to make sure that your emotions are pure and balanced, that you can handle a blow to your ego and not spin off on a tangent and just become destructive and toxic because something happens to you. You need to be able to master your own emotions. And the same thing with others. Like you need to master. If you get too addicted to the adrenaline rush or desire and lust and all that stuff, and you can't temper yourself to be like, all right, I can take a little bit of that. Like I can get down, but then I can, go back and I can get serious when I need to be serious. That's about that balance. You don't have to, throw out completely. It's about balance. You can let out your anger in different ways. Channel it into something that's constructive. Are you good at art? Are you good at music? Are you good at whatever it is? channel it, master it, but don't be flying off the handle. And your mental, your mind. Can you balance your mind? You're going to be attacked by two sides, right? Can you balance all of these things? That's your personality. That's your work. You have to handle that on your own. Disciples handle their own personalities. In the pressure of world work, the masters are finding themselves with less and less time to give even to their disciples. How then do those who are not in the ranks of accepted disciples expect the master to have time to deal with their little affairs? So again, I said that the Tibetan says this right here, more or less, in many different sections of this book at many different times, because it is an important thing that I think Bailey, through the Tibetan, was trying to establish at that time. This was written, I think, in the 1920s or 30s, that the way of spiritual growth is changing. And this is very much in line with the sixth ray passing out of incarnation right now, the sixth ray of devotion and idealism, where the sixth ray was very much so where we just idolize a person, or we say devoted to an idea or a concept, and we feel like that's going to carry us through. That's going to, like, if I subscribe to this faith, it's going to bring me through and give me all the answers that I need, and I can just sit back and be on autopilot, because if I devote myself to X cause or X, this career or this person, then I've done my work. I can rest comfortably on this idea of what's enough. And I wrote over these because way back when someone did tell me that this chart had some words that were a little bit misleading in how it labeled the rays. The fifth ray is of concrete knowledge rather than intelligence, although it does deal with that because it is connected to the third ray, which is of intelligence and philosophy. So I just kind of wrote over those as a reminder for myself and anyone watching as we kind of look at these. But where am I going? But we are moving into a place where the masters don't have time. And again, what do we mean by masters? People who have done the work and studied the stuff long enough. It's not this elusive thing. You're not a master servant. It's not like you're lesser than. We're all equal. We just have different levels of understanding because we are at different levels of soul growth and development, soul contact. Again, we're looking at the constitution of man. If you keep each of these lines are a level of consciousness, you got to figure out which line you're at. And then and again, no one knows that better than us. So if I'm right here, where I'm still very much so ruled by my emotions, my goal is I want to develop my mind. Because through my logic and my reason, I can quell and start to become more of a master, stand over this line of my emotions. Right here, when we understand only the physical, our emotions are not under control because we understand we're standing under this line here. When we understand the emotional, right, we become a little bit more in flow. We know how to master, we know how to move through this realm, up and down. We're okay. I can choose to have a day where I'm purely physical, where I need to do some physical activity. I need to balance out this part of myself, go on a hike, do whatever. But I'm going to nourish my emotional side some other way. What makes me feel peace and happiness and the strongest higher level emotions, because there's low level emotions and there's higher level emotions. What puts me here? Is it a massage? Is it, listening to music, going to a concert? What is it that's going to put me at the highest level here? Spend some time in each of these worlds, these solar systems, like our as above, so below. These are different planets. Our emotions, if this is Venus, Taurus, Libra, we like certain comforts. Our emotions are happy when we are accentuating our Venus energy. So I like to wear soft clothes. I like to be in a warm, decorated environment. I like to have soft, like things that are not cold, very, even the kind of architecture that you're living in can nurture or kind of put down that feeling of Venus energy, feeling nourished. And then again, these are solar systems. Our soul, S-O-U-L, plus the soul sun, S-O-L-A-R, with the planets. So again, like maybe, what are we looking at here? Mental. We could have, Sagittarius here. We could have, in terms of planets, Mars, very strategic. There's different ways that you can go about nourishing your mind. Is it the mind, the lower level mind? How can I maneuver this situation to go in my favor? If I could put you down here at this line, you want to overstand it, you're going to use your intuition. Your intuition will lead you in the right ways to think, because you're going to be based on a more divinely informed version of how to think. So that's when you're over in this line. You overstand your intuition. You move with spiritual wisdom and will that is inspired by intelligent activity. This is now you're thinking like the monad. Again, this is where we're trying to incorporate all 12 signs of the zodiac, right? We're all personality types, all ways of thinking and being, to be what the all mind is or what the divine is, right? This is the constitution of man. What are you made of? What line are you on? What do you understand? What do you understand? What do you overstand? Where are you on this chart? That's your work to discover and to uncover. And the masters are not going to deal with little affairs. But that's not little, right? That's the huge, big work of so many of us. That's what all of us are trying to do, is to figure out where we are at that chart and how to get to the next rank and to the next rank. That's not a little affair. That's a big accomplishment if you're able to do that in life, is to just recognize that, hey, I can actually move through this chart. I have choice here. I have a say in the matter. And the masters are not really here to say that that's not important. That's a life work. That's purpose being fulfilled. That's very something to be acknowledged and to be recognized and to be awarded, I guess you could say. But in terms of what they're trying to work on, right? When you're up here, your work is a little bit different. So that is considered a little affair. Because if you've gone through all that work and if you've done the hard work, because it's not easy to lift yourself up from all this and learn how to, when you need to dip into this space, when you need to pull from this space, when you need to be here, when you need to be there. And once you've mastered that, then yes, it becomes little work to try and help someone be like, well, how do I handle my emotions? Or how do I handle my personality if I'm unstable? They've graduated past that level. That's all this is trying to say, which makes that now become a little affair. And where this says here, this is supposed to be our own individual work now. Where does it say that? Let's just read. In the future, groups will be formed increasingly, which will function on a new basis, and some of these new group organisms are forming in the world at this time. They are still in the nature of an experiment and may prove premature or undesirable. The teaching given in these new groups, the suggestions made, the experiments and training to be attempted, and the technique imparted will not be given personally and privately to an individual group member, but all of it is open and can be read, known, and considered by every other member in the group. Now I'm remembering that this paragraph had some things in here that I questioned, because this is where we establish this concept of these secret societies where we learn in a group, and where it says here, they have also to preserve complete silence as to the existence of the group, and a breaking of this silence warrants their elimination from the group. And, all this is moving as a group, and we keep the group secrets and all that stuff. I would say for our purposes right now, where things are so screwed up and imbalanced, where the crisis is so acute and the times are so serious, I don't think this is the time to be trying to be a part of any group. I don't think now is the time to be trying to be, like I said, learning from any certain person that's going to promise you, we already know the apple of fortune and fame or whatever, in terms of what you're actually signing on to, in terms of whether people are focusing on having a soul right now or actually losing their soul. Like, that's actually the cool thing. We need to maybe not try so hard to be in this exclusive elite groups, because unless you know exactly what ladder their wall is up against, like I talked about in the last video, you don't need to be keeping anyone's secrets or all this stuff. I think I like this part out in the open, can be read, known, and considered by every other member of the group. Your failures and your successes, all of this stuff is public, and like it says here, but you know, this is another thing. This is kind of how it works. So I might not be a part of any groups because right now I'm the one that's going to be like, no, I'm not keeping the secret. I'm going to tell everybody. Like, no, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'm not really with that right now. I think so much of the issues that we've had right now are because of this whole stupid idea of trying to hide the light, hide the information, hide the teachings and the wisdom from people. That might be just because I'm on a lower level here and I just don't get it. So don't take my word for it, but that's just where I'm at with that right now. Moving on. It is important to remember that the attitude of the training initiate or teacher is one of complete detachment and impersonality. He is aware of the soul-like condition and of the mental state, but he does not turn his attention to the handling of the affairs of the aspirant on the physical plane, nor to the training of his emotional nature and his astral development. This is, again, saying right there, if you're going to work with someone here, the master is not going to tell you how to handle your everyday daily life. The aspirants learn to be master and adept by handling their own physical plane affairs and their astral idiosyncrasies. They must do in the light and strength of their own souls. We who teach would break a law and hinder their development if we attempted to enforce conditions which come not naturally. You cannot enforce conditions that are not natural. You cannot change a person. You can shine light, and they can choose to climb and build the constitution of the man, the human that they are going to be. Which level do they want to exist on? How far do they want to go? That's their choice. You can't enforce conditions that are not natural. So that's just that. All right. I think this is getting on the longer side. I'm going to wrap it up soon. This was an interesting line. It says, we who teach, so this is where I'm like, oh, this kind of goes into that society stuff. No, not that one. We should overstimulate their lower natures. So this is what happens when you get yourself into a secret society where they're trying to like break you in to the teachings and they test you, right? We're going to overstimulate your lower nature. So this is where we're going again into the brother love, and that's P. Diddy for anyone who doesn't know. We're going to overstimulate your lower natures. I'm going to give you all this playground of all of this carnal stuff down here. I'm going to give you everything you could want down here. And I'm going to give you everything you could desire from this line of your emotions. Sorry. From this level of your emotion. Right here, lower level emotions. I'm going to give you everything you can play around as much as you want here. I'm going to put it all at your disposal. I'm going to test you in this way. What are you going to do? Are you going to learn to balance that? Learn what is, enough is enough? No, these people go all the way. They start to feel invincible. They start to feel like they are up here. Gods. I'm above the law. I can take what I want. I can play, I can harm, I can do whatever I want. I can dabble in anything down here, and I will be protected. This is a false realization. This is a false belief. And so what happens is they have had their lower nature overstimulated, and they have thought that they jumped up a level, like they were given the key to the gates to the kingdom, right? But they were not gods. They were not invincible. So the higher they rise, the harder they fall, right? Pride comes before the fall. All these things. Sometimes you will rack up so much karma, depending on your birth chart too. If you're going to have immediate karma, or whether it comes in waves along one of these cycles. Again, we just had the full moon, the Mercury retrograde, and the eclipse, and all of this is happening with this big public unfolding or shattering of a legacy of someone who's been a mogul, someone who's been really, everybody knows your name in a certain field, in a certain industry. So everyone's going to know how this all plays out too. It's going to be very much public on the world stage. So we're going to figure out if that shortcut that you were given, whoever gave you those tests and made you feel that you were here, were you really in that place? Or were you always down here being controlled by those who are gatekeepers of these levels testing your wisdom, testing your intuition, testing your mental capacity. Are you at this lower mind, the ego, or are you at this higher mind where you can actually walk into, see how this mind is connected to the activity of the Trinity, the mother influence? Again, this goes real deep because right now we're seeing a world where we're acting completely from the masculine, the will, the do, the put out force. But the mother of this Trinity is the activity, learning how to act with wisdom, love, to birth out the Son, this Trinity, to create something rather than destroy. The will destroys. If it didn't have the focus of how to put that force and that energy into a direct channel, nothing would be produced. But you need that mother energy, that feminine energy, that intelligent activity connected to your mind so that you act on your will and your impulse with a desire to create something wise. This is when you're balanced. This is when you're acting in your divinity. If you don't have this connection, then your actions are down here, ego, and you have control only over these lower states. This is as far as you go. So here it says that the masters should overstimulate the lower natures of their disciples or their aspirants. When will aspirants learn that the teachers and senior disciples in charge of them work only on mental levels and with the soul? When will they grasp the fact that until a man has contacted his own soul and has learned to function as a controlled mind as well, there is little we can do for him? Again, I say, we are not interested in personalities and their small affairs. We have neither the time nor the inclination to interfere with the way and method of a man's daily life. Why should we, when enough has been printed and taught to occupy the attention of the aspiring man for many a day? The tools are out there. When a man is beginning to live as a soul, and when his consciousness has shifted away from the world of illusion, then he can be useful. The first lesson he has to learn is a sense of values in time and space, and to know that we work with souls and not to nurse the personality. Where am I at? I'm going to wrap this up with this last paragraph. Seems this too hard a saying to you? If it is indeed so to you, it means that you are as yet somewhat self-centered and in love with your own individual soul, having not yet duly contacted it, and having but perhaps sensed its vibration and no more. You have not yet the true picture of the world's need, which will release you from your own ambition and set you free to work as we on the subjective side work, with no thought of self or of spiritual happiness, and with no desire for any self-appointed task, with no longing for glittering promises of future success, and with no demanding ache for the tender touch and contact with those greater in consciousness than ourselves. If this lies still beyond your realization, recognize the fact and understand that there is no blame attached. It only indicates to you the ground whereon you stand, and that the illusion of the astral plane still holds you in its thrall and still leads you to place personality reactions before group realization. Again, looking at the Constitution of Man, this is just saying that there's no blame in if you still want the fortune and fame of being a guru or of being a spiritual person for the sake of saying, hey, look at me, or any of that kind of stuff. That's fine. It just tells you where you stand on the chart of the Constitution of Man. If you're still focused on the personality, if it's still trying to find emotional validation through seeing others seeing who you are or whatever, that just means that you're focused on the self, and this is where you're dwelling. You could choose where you want to sit on this chart. This says that the astral plane right here, again, is in the emotional world, the emotional part of the soul. The solar system, your soul, is here, focused on the astral plane, if that's what you're looking for. Whereas it says, and that the illusion of the astral plane still holds you in its thrall and still leads you to place personality reactions before group realization. And again, group realization comes through living as the soul. The soul wants to master the human plane, the life experience. We live so that we can create more life. If anywhere around the world people are dying in mass and we don't feel pain through that loss of life, then we are not living as souls. Because souls understand that we are connected as a species. Our goal is to understand life and how to live it, not to cause destruction and harm and to let those people over there go and think, oh, that's too bad for them. It's a team thing, right? We're all on the same team. And until we see that, then we are self-centered and not group-centered. And group-centered is where we take it from this, again, this level of greed, this level of competition, all this survival of the fittest, all of that stuff that we're taught is how to win at life. But all it does, if the result is destruction and chaos and less loss of life, that cannot be the true key to life. That cannot build us up to the highest plane of existence. For we are to live as divine beings on this planet, as above, so below. The kingdom of heaven is here and now. But if we're stopping down here, then we're going to see certain things keep playing out in life. Because the level that man sits in his consciousness will dictate the dramas and the things that are playing out on the life stage. Because these are the planes of our solar system. If we have more people evolving up the ranks and living as their divine beings, their souls, their animated and monadic selves, we're going to care a little bit more when we have loss of life. We're going to feel a bit more invested in solving the world's problems. And we're going to see that it's possible. And we're going to actually do the work. We're not going to just have elections where people say things and do the song and dance and discredit other people and say, hey, this guy was a drunk driver, so don't vote for David Min, or whatever the heck that commercial is. I was just like, oh my God, this is so petty. We're gonna look at things a little bit differently. But it says, if there's no blame attached, if the ground whereon we stand is still on personality preference rather than for the group. As long as you walk on that plane and function on that level of consciousness, it is not possible to draw you consciously into the master's group on mental levels, because the masters only work up here on the mental levels. Higher mind, all the way up here. They're no longer working with the people that are focused in the personality realm, is what this is saying on that chart. You would be apt to hurt the group and cause trouble. You would see things through the group stimulation which would with clarity for which you are not yet ready and would be shattered thereby. You have need to learn the lessons of accepting guidance from your own soul. Again, just driving it home, this is your own journey. And of learning to work with harmony and impersonality on the physical plane with the group or groups to which your destiny impels you. When you have learnt the lesson of self-forgetfulness, when you seek nothing for the separated self, when you stand firmly on your own feet and look for aid within yourself, and when the trend of your life is towards cooperation, then you may pass from the stage of observer to that of communicator. This will happen because you can be trusted to communicate only that which is impersonal and truly constructive, and which will not feed the emotional nature and satisfy the desire self. I think for right now I'm going to end this here, and we're going to jump back into this again in another video. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you soon. Take care.
One rabbit.